Okay, strap in. Today's deep dive takes us into the world of cell biology.
It sure does.
You've been
But
digging deep into cell cycle regulation.
yeah,
And from the looks of these notes, it's complicated stuff.
it is pretty complex.
Power.
And cells just deciding, okay, it's time to split.
Yeah.
It's like this carefully choreographed ballet
Hmm.
with multiple checkpoints
Coy.
to make sure everything happens at the right moment.
Okay, I'm getting cell cycle conductor vibes already.
Mm-hmm.
So based on what I'm seeing, the first checkpoint we need to unpack is the DNA damage checkpoint.
Yeah, you got it. That's the one.
Okay.
This one's all about safeguarding our genetic information.
Yep.
You know, because you wouldn't want to copy a page with coffee spilled on it, would you?
Right.
Cells have the same idea.
Makes sense.
This checkpoint ensures a cell doesn't replicate its DNA unless it's in pristine condition.
Damaged blueprints lead to wonky construction.
Got it. Exactly.
But how does the cell actually detect damage?
Well,
It's not like there's a tiny inspector running around in there.
not an inspector, but
Or is there?
the cell does have a dedicated player for this ATR kinase.
Okay.
Picture it like a watchdog
Okay.
that constantly scans for DNA breaks or any errors. And if it finds something, boom,
yeah.
it sets off this whole chain reaction.
So what happens next?
Well-
Does ATR call for backup?
You could say that
Oh, yeah.
one of the key players it calls upon is the famous P53,
B53?
often dubbed the guardian of the genome.
Yeah.
Think of P53 as the emergency brake.
Gotcha.
It can bring the entire cell cycle to a screeching halt,
Wow.
giving the cell precious time to repair the damage.
And this P53, it rings a bell.
Yeah,
It's a big deal when it comes to cancer, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
See, when P53 isn't working properly,
Uh-oh.
that's when things can go haywire.
Okay.
Damaged cells might slip through the cracks
Right.
and continue dividing and potentially leading to, well, bigger problems.
So basically, P53 dysfunction is like having a broken emergency brake.
Pretty much.
Not a good situation.
Not good.
Makes you appreciate how important these safeguards really are.
Absolutely. And P53 is just one player in a larger network of proteins involved in this crucial checkpoint.
Wow.
The takeaway here is that cells have this remarkably sophisticated system to prevent errors from being passed on during DNA replication.
Speaking of ensuring proper division,
Right.
let's talk about another critical checkpoint, the spindle attachment checkpoint.
Okay.
This one sounds a bit less familiar.
Yeah.
What's its role in this cellular ballet?
Yes. The spindle attachment checkpoint.
Okay.
This one is all about preventing chromosome chaos. You see, when a cell divides,
Right.
aim is to make sure each daughter cell gets a full set of chromosomes.
Makes sense. You wouldn't want one cell hogging all the genetic material.
Exactly. The chromosomes actually attach to a structure called the mitotic spindle,
Okay.
which acts like a cellular crane during cell division. And this checkpoint meticulously checks that every single chromosome is properly hitched to the spindle before the cell splits.
So it's like a final head count before the big separation.
Yeah.
Making sure each daughter cell gets its fair share.
Precisely. And this checkpoint is vital because if even one chromosome is out of place,
Oh, wow.
the daughter cells could end up with an incorrect number of chromosomes.
Right.
And that can lead to a whole host of problems.
No, okay, so we've got our DNA damage checkpoint ensuring the blueprints are in good shape,
Yes.
and our spindle attachment checkpoint acting like a meticulous overseer during the actual division,
It does.
both playing crucial roles in keeping things running smoothly.
Exactly. But remember, it's not just about hitting the brakes.
Right.
Cells need to grow and divide too, right?
Right, that's where the gas pedal comes in.
You got it.
Okay.
And for that, we need to talk about the MAPK pathway.
MOPK. That one sounds new. Fill me in.
So imagine the MAPK pathway as a cellular hotline directly connecting the cell's internal machinery to the outside world.
Okay.
This pathway is often activated by external cues like growth factors, those molecular messengers that tell cells, hey, it's time to grow and divide.
Okay, so the MAPK pathway is like the go-ahead signal for cell division,
It is.
responding to cues from the surrounding environment.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
And this pathway ultimately influences the activity of a protein called the retinoblastoma protein, or RB.
Yes, RB, exactly.
RB. And what does this protein do?
Think of RB as a gatekeeper,
Oh,
keeping a tight grip on another protein called E2F.
okay.
Now, E2F is a bit of a rebel.
Mm-hmm.
It's raring to go,
Okay.
eager to activate genes that drive cell cycle progression.
So RB is like the chaperone keeping E2F from getting out of control and starting the party too soon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when the MPK pathway is activated by those external growth signals,
Right.
it sets off a cascade of events that ultimately lead to the release of E2F.
Ah, so the chaperone gets distracted, the gate opens,
Yes,
and E2F is free to start the cell division party.
that's a good way to put it.
But what about those master regulators you mentioned before?
Yes,
Those CDK complexes, if I remember correctly.
you've got a great memory.
Okay.
And yes, CDK complexes are crucial players in all of this.
Okay.
CDK stands for cyclin-dependent kinase, and they're like the conductors of our cellular orchestra,
Okay.
dictating the tempo and progression of the cell cycle.
Okay, so CDKs are the conductors.
Yes,
And I'm guessing they don't work alone.
you're right. Just like a conductor needs an orchestra.
Yeah?
CDKs need their partners in crime cyclins.
Good.
These regulatory proteins are what actually activate CDKs,
Okay.
and together they form a powerful duo.
So it's a dynamic duo, CDKs and cyclins,
It is.
working together to orchestrate this whole intricate process of cell division.
Yes.
But how do they actually control things?
Well, it's all about timing and specificity.
Okay.
Different CDK cyclin complexes are active at different phases of the cell cycle. Think of it like a well-choreographed relay race.
A relay race. That's an interesting analogy.
Yeah,
So different CDK cyclin complexes are in charge at different legs of the race.
exactly. For instance, the G1 CDK complex helps the cell breeze through the first leg.
Okay.
The G1 phase where the cell grows and produces all the materials it needs to copy its DNA.
Right.
Then, as the cell gears up for DNA synthesis, the G1S CDK complex takes over, passing the baton for the next leg of the race.
And these CDK cyclin complexes, how do they actually drive the cell cycle forward?
They act like molecular switches,
Oh.
turning on and off key cellular processes by phosphorylating target proteins.
Okay.
Think of it like flicking a light switch on or off.
Gotcha.
These complexes activate or deactivate specific proteins,
Okay.
ensuring that everything happens in the right order and at the right time.
So we've got these master regulators, our CDK cyclin complexes acting like conductors
Yes.
and ensuring everything is perfectly synchronized.
Yeah.
It's truly remarkable how much detail and coordination goes into something as seemingly simple as cell division.
It really is. And remember, we've only just begun to scratch the surface of this intricate world.
I can only imagine. But this is already blowing my mind.
I know, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, it's way more complex than that simple diagram I remember from high school biology class.
I bet.
Okay, so we're back, and my mind is still reeling from that intricate dance of checkpoints, pathways, and those master conductor CDK cyclin complexes.
It's a lot to take in.
It's like our cells are running a perfectly timed marathon,
Yeah.
with different players taking the lead at every stage.
It really is like a relay race.
But what happens when a runner stumbles or misses their cue?
Right.
What are the consequences of the cell cycle veering off course?
Well, imagine a cell barreling through a red light at one of those crucial checkpoints.
Oh,
Say a cell with DNA damage that manages to escape P53.
no, that can't be good.
Not at all.
What happens?
That cell with its compromised blueprint could continue dividing,
Oh, no.
potentially passing on those errors to its daughter cells. And this is where things can go really wrong.
Because now you've got multiple cells with faulty instructions potentially running amok.
Exactly. And this uncontrolled proliferation,
Right.
often coupled with the accumulation of even more errors,
Yeah.
is a hallmark of many diseases, including cancer.
So cancer is, in a way, a disease of the cell cycle gone rogue.
In a way, you could say that.
It's incredible to think that these microscopic processes, these checkpoints and signals, can have such profound implications for our health.
It really is remarkable.
It really underscores the importance of understanding these fundamental mechanisms.
It does.
The more we know about how cells regulate their growth and division, the better equipped we are to develop strategies for diagnosing, treating, and even preventing diseases.
Absolutely.
It's like knowing the ins and outs of a car engine. The more you understand how it works, the better you can troubleshoot problems and keep it running smoothly.
A good analogy.
But going back to these CDK cyclin complexes for a second,
Okay.
are they always pushing the cell cycle forward?
Well,
It seems like there needs to be a counterbalance,
right.
a way to hit the brakes when needed.
You're absolutely right. Just as there are signals that accelerate the cell cycle, there are equally important signals that apply the brakes,
Okay.
ensuring that cells don't divide prematurely or when conditions aren't favorable.
So it's a constant conversation, a delicate balance between go signals and stop signals,
Precisely.
coming from inside and outside the cell.
Exactly. And these signals can come from both inside and outside the cell.
We've already talked about external cues like
Right.
growth factors,
Yeah.
but cells also listen to their internal environment. They do.
For instance, if a cell senses that its DNA isn't properly copied during the S phase, it can activate pathways that halt the cycle,
That's right.
preventing those errors from being cast on. It's like
Exactly.
a built-in quality control system,
Yeah,
making sure everything is in tip-top shape before proceeding to the next stage.
exactly. And this intricate interplay of signals ensures that cells divide only when they're supposed to,
Okay.
preventing chaos and maintaining the integrity of our tissues.
Wow, so we've got these checkpoints acting like traffic lights,
Uh-huh.
the MAPK pathway revving the engine,
Okay.
and CDK cycling complexes steering the ship.
It's quite a system.
It's truly remarkable how all these players work together to keep things running smoothly.
It's a testament to the power of evolution, wouldn't you say?
It really is. These intricate mechanisms have evolved over billions of years,
Wow.
honed to perfection to ensure the survival and propagation of life as we know it.
It makes you appreciate the incredible complexity happening inside each of our cells every second of every day.
It really does.
But you mentioned earlier that our understanding of the cell cycle came from some unlikely heroes.
It did.
Frog eggs and yeast.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Ah, yes, the unsung heroes of cell cycle research.
Okay.
You see, frog eggs, or oocytes, are gigantic cells,
Right.
making them ideal for studying cell division under a microscope.
Wow.
Researchers could actually watch the process unfold in real time.
So it's like having a front row seat to the cellular Grand Prix.
Exactly.
Hmm.
These early experiments were crucial in identifying the different phases of the cell cycle and understanding the basic choreography of cell division.
And what about yeast?
Yeah.
What makes them such valuable players in this story?
Yeast cells, particularly a type called fission yeast,
Okay.
are incredibly useful because they have a simple genome and reproduce rapidly.
Okay.
This makes them perfect for genetic studies, where
Yeah.
scientists can manipulate their genes and see how it affects the cell cycle.
So by tinkering with yeast genes, scientists were able to pinpoint the roles of specific proteins involved in cell cycle control.
Precisely. And what's even more remarkable is that many of these key players, these molecular conductors and traffic lights,
Yeah.
are incredibly well conserved across different species.
You mean the same basic machinery that controls cell division in a single-celled yeast is also at work in our own complex bodies?
Exactly. It highlights the fundamental nature of these processes.
Wow.
These ancient mechanisms that have been passed down through billions of years of evolution,
Wow, that's incredible.
ensuring the continuation of life itself.
That's absolutely mind-blowing.
It is pretty amazing.
But before we dive deeper into this evolutionary tale,
Okay.
let's pause for a quick break.
Sounds good.
We'll be back in a flash to explore the bigger picture of the cell cycle and its impact on life as we know it. Okay, so we're back, and I'm still thinking about how those tiny yeast cells hold the secrets to such a fundamental process in all living things.
Yeah, it really makes you think about those early researchers and just how much their work has shaped our understanding today.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of life, don't you think?
It absolutely does. And it shows how important basic research really is. You just never know where a simple question like, how does yeast divide, might lead.
Exactly. It's those fundamental questions that often unlock the biggest mysteries.
Well said. And you're right, it's time to connect this intricate cellular dance to the bigger picture.
Because it's not just about cells dividing in a petri dish, right?
It goes way beyond that.
It has real-world implications for all of us.
Absolutely. The cell cycle isn't just some abstract concept. It's
Right.
the very foundation of growth, development, and repair in all living organisms.
It really is the basis of life itself.
Think about it. From a single fertilized egg,
Wow.
a complex human being develops
It's incredible.
with trillions of cells working together in perfect harmony.
And that harmony is only possible because of this intricate cell cycle we've been discussing.
Exactly. The cell cycle makes sure that cells divide when they're supposed to,
Yeah.
where they're supposed to,
Okay.
and in the right way to create new cells to build and maintain tissues and organs.
So it's not just about making more cells. It's about making the right cells at the right time.
Yes.
It's like having a perfectly orchestrated construction crew with different specialists coming in at just the right moment to do their part.
I like that analogy.
And just like on a construction site, if the timing's off or a crucial step is missed, things can go wrong.
Exactly. When the cell cycle goes off the rails, there can be serious consequences.
Which brings us back to those consequences we were discussing earlier.
Right.
What happens when the cell cycle goes off the rails? You mentioned cancer, but are there other implications as well?
Yes, definitely. While cancer is a significant consequence of cell cycle dysregulation, It's not the only one. Developmental disorders, for example, can arise from errors in cell division during embryonic development.
So a mistimed division or a cell dividing when it shouldn't
Hmm.
could have cascading effects leading to developmental issues.
Yes, it can. It's like a domino effect. One mistake can lead to another, and so on.
Wow.
And it's not always about too much cell division either.
Okay.
Problems can also arise when there's not enough cell division or when cells don't die off when they're supposed to. This delicate balance between cell birth, cell death, and cell differentiation is what ensures tissues and organs develop and function properly.
It's like a dance, isn't it?
It is.
And when one partner stumbles, it throws off the entire routine.
Well put.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the cell cycle, what's the key message you want to leave our listeners with?
I want them to remember this. The cell cycle is more than just a series of molecular events. It's the very essence of life. It's the driving force behind our growth, our development, our ability to heal and regenerate. It's a fundamental process that unites all living organisms, from the simplest bacteria to the most complex animals.
And understanding this process in all its complexity is crucial for addressing a wide range of human health challenges.
Exactly. The more we can unravel the mysteries of the cell cycle, the better equipped we'll be to develop new strategies for treating diseases, repairing damaged tissues, and maybe even slowing down the aging process itself.
Now, that's a thought-provoking idea to end on. It's incredible to think that these microscopic processes we've been discussing hold the potential to unlock some of the biggest mysteries of life and health. To our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a newfound appreciation for the incredible symphony of events happening within each of your cells, orchestrating the miracle of life itself.
Well said. I couldn't agree more.